My name is Anna, and I have three kids. I have two daughters, and my youngest is a boy. His name is Soren, and he's 6 years old now. And he has epilepsy. He was diagnosed with Doose syndrome when he was 4 years old. Soren has tonic-clonic seizures. That's what we noticed first. And then about a month after he started having tonic-clonic seizures, he started having myoclonic seizures, which a lot of people will refer to as a drop seizure, or it's a very brief, less than a second seizure usually. It doesn't interrupt his activity too much, although if he's running, it might cause him to trip, or if he's hanging from the bars, it might cause him to fall. It's a really brief just a little bit of vocal, involuntary vocal, like and maybe his shoulders go up a little bit, and that's it. He's been doing really well, coincidentally, since the pandemic started. I think he was trending in that direction, but he's now been seizure-free for over a year. And so his seizure-free days started just shortly after we went into lockdown, which for me kind of was like, oh, is this because we're in lockdown, or like, did his brain need less activity, less stimulus? But when I look back at the charts that I was keeping on how many seizures he was having per day, he was trending down. And so I think it probably would have happened regardless of whether we locked down or not. So, but I think, one thing that really did help was that he wasn't being exposed to viruses the way that he was before the pandemic. He was in preschool, and, a little cold here or there, and being sick was his biggest trigger. He had an interesting pattern where he would get sick, and then it wasn't until he started feeling better that the seizures would appear. And so it took a little while for us to associate the seizures with the illness. But we were definitely seeing spikes of seizures, and we finally figured out that it was like 5 days after he was sick. That's when we would see a peak in seizures. And then it would gradually, work its way back down to kind of more of his baseline. Talking with a lot of other parents who have put their kids on the diet, some kids are more sensitive to certain additives than other kids. And Soren really hasn't had any sensitivities to certain foods. Like, I've heard some people say that, their kid can't have apples because apples really make their glucose level go up, their blood glucose level go up a lot. And I haven't found, as long as we're staying within his normal range of carbs, I haven't found any specific foods to be more, triggering. The only time that I've found a food that I decided I was never going to give him again was when we tried low-carb tortillas from the grocery store. It was like the Mission low-carb tortillas. And I remember having kind of like a bad feeling in my gut about them, because the total carb count is really high. It's like 20 or something. And then it's got like 18 grams of fiber or something like that. So really high total carb, really high fiber count. And he ended up having 2 seizures the day after I gave him one of those. And I'm pretty sure that that's what triggered it. And after talking to some other parents on the support groups, there's other people who've had a similar experience to me with some of those store-bought low-carb products, where it's got a really high total carb and a really high fiber, which leaves you with a really small net carb. But then sometimes I wonder, well, maybe he's just got a sensitivity to wheat, or because there's also other people out there who are doing the diet for seizures, and can use those products without a problem. So it is really individual. Point where I feel like sharing our story with other people is important, and kind of in a way being on the other side. I mean, we don't really know that we're on the other side. We don't know if his seizures are going to come back or not, but feeling like we have a whole lot more hope than we did at one point. And I think it's important to share that hope with other people, because there was a time when I thought this would be impossible. I didn't think we would ever see seizure-free days.